Jade Empire is the latest role-playing game from BioWare, a developer that's been at the forefront of this style of gaming for many years now. Chances are you've played or at least heard of games like Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which are BioWare's claims to fame. But this is the first time that the company has delivered an RPG in a unique setting. Jade Empire takes place in a mystical land inspired by the mythology and folklore of ancient China, though it has plenty of unique twists of its own. You play as a talented martial artist who, soon into the adventure, sets off in search of his or her master. You'll be joined by various colorful companions in this quest, which will take you into the heart of the Imperial City as you try to uncover what treachery is threatening the Jade Empire. The game features the open-ended choose-your-own-adventure style role-playing that BioWare is known for, a good story and plenty of interesting characters, and lots of replay value. You'll never see everything the game has to offer in just one playthrough. Though the game takes place in a world that looks nothing like Dungeons & Dragons or Star Wars-style science fiction, Jade Empire actually has a lot in common with previous BioWare games. Namely, the character interaction is still a major highlight. There's plenty of sharply written dialogue and dozens of unique characters to speak to, and you can choose to play either the part of the noble hero or the arrogant villain pretty much every step of the way. All the different outcomes for the dialogue and the questing are fun to experience, lending Jade Empire both its replay value as well as its fairly open-ended feel. In most role-playing games on consoles, you just sit back and absorb the story, so it's great to be an active participant in the storytelling here. Jade Empire also features a new action-packed combat system that lets you choose from different martial arts styles on the fly as you duke it out against difficult odds. You're stuck mostly using various striking moves, so don't expect any throws, counters, or high-flying wire fu or anything like that. This is straightforward stuff. The combat at least looks pretty good and seems to offer quite a bit of depth on paper, but in practice it's actually pretty shallow. You just wail on the attack button until your enemies block, at which time you use your unblockable move. If they attack, vault over behind them, rinse, and repeat. This tactic works against literally every single enemy in the game, and on top of that, the default difficulty setting of Jade Empire makes combat almost laughably easy. You'll tear through your enemies without breaking a sweat. The combat is still pretty fun, since you do get a lot of different martial arts styles to choose from and to experiment with, but it gets to be pretty repetitive after a while, and it's probably the game's weakest link. Apart from combat and interacting with all the game's characters, what you do in Jade Empire is pretty much run around from point to point, taking in the nice scenery. It's too bad that the environments weren't more interactive, since looking at them is pretty much all you can do, apart from opening the occasional barrel or cracking the occasional vase. Also, the game's long loading times can be pretty painful, and the one minigame, a vertical scrolling shooter styled after games like Raiden and Ikaruga, is way better in principle than in execution. The game is also pretty short by RPG standards and shouldn't take you more than 20 hours on your first playthrough, though there's a lot to come back to. The good news is Jade Empire overpowers its weaknesses thanks to the quality of its setting and its presentation. This is a great-looking game. It features a lot of impressive-looking scenery to take in, and lots of nicely detailed characters who seem to show genuine emotion, and they lip-sync all their speech and all that.
About me? What do you want to know? You want to talk to him, don't you? The Guardian?
The voice work is actually really impressive too, partly because of just how much of it there is, and the soundtrack perfectly captures the tone that the game is shooting for. All throughout, you'll be running into all these interesting people with great names like Sagacious Zoo and the Black Whirlwind, and you'll be picking up martial arts styles called things like Paralyzing Palm and Thousand Cuts. The game really nails the whole martial arts cinema feel, and it goes a long way toward making Jade Empire memorable and entertaining. Also, even though the story seems pretty standard and predictable at first, rest assured it veers off into some interesting directions and tidies up all its loose ends nicely. The game's also got plenty of interesting side quests, some of which form up rather large chunks of optional gameplay. It's nice being able to take these in any order and at your leisure, though they highlight Jade Empire's simplistic character development system. Jade Empire actually allows you to roleplay, which is nice in the context of a role-playing game. However, it doesn't do that great of a job with the character building elements that are also central to this genre. If you had fun building up superpowered characters in games like Knights of the Old Republic, don't expect the same level of attachment or customization here. As you level up, you only get to tweak your character's stats, and you don't have an inventory apart from the ability to equip little stat-boosting gems onto your amulet. It definitely feels a little stripped down, as if the game were designed to appeal to people who normally think role-playing games are too complicated or too difficult to get into. But it's hard to imagine people like that getting past Jade Empire's lengthy dialogue sequences or having too much fun with the action anyway. Meanwhile, fans of BioWare's past games or other open-ended RPGs will probably think this game was streamlined a little more than necessary. It's hard to resist comparing Jade Empire with BioWare's past games, especially since it's so similar. But just because it's not the next Knights of the Old Republic or Baldur's Gate 2 doesn't mean it's not great. The original setting of the game goes a long way toward making Jade Empire a satisfying and memorable experience, so if you like the idea of it and approach with reasonable expectations, you'll have an excellent time. Of course, there's a lot more to say about Jade Empire, so if you have further questions, please check out the full written review on GameSpot.